government source reaches out to me today. I'm not going to narrow that down, but this is someone who knew what was happening. I reported earlier today that, while people were freaked out that the parcel of land was not on the agenda for the meeting today at the Arizona State Land Department. And I had mentioned earlier that I had heard that you could do some of this stuff in secrecy in the executive session, which apparently the Arizona State Land Department has as well. And I'm very familiar with executive session because I'm on, first name basis with 3 different city councils because I covered the Arizona Coyotes. So I kind of had an inkling that this could be a part of the process, and somebody confirmed that. And then, in fact, somebody confirmed that they were talking about the Coyotes deal in executive session, which means it's not open to the public, but stuff always leaks out anyway. What happened, and I think Richard Rodier announced this first on Twitter. He reported this, that they went from 200 acres down to 100 acres because the cost was just crazy for the 200 acres. There were a lot of development costs associated with that were going to be too prohibitive for the Coyotes. Greg Wyshynski reported this as well. But I did find out that they talked about that 100-acre deal in executive session, and apparently the meeting went very well. In fact, this government source, again, is not affiliated with the Coyotes, so normally I would take that with a grain of salt because you've heard a lot of positive projection from the Coyotes, and you're like, yeah, okay, we've heard this before. This was a government source reaching out to me unsolicited, saying the meeting went really well, and he could see this thing all wrapped up in 3 months, which was eye-opening to me. 3 months. Again, we don't know how the NHL is going to react to any of this. We don't know what's coming from Gary Bettman, after the Super Bowl. But the idea that this could be wrapped up in 3 months was interesting to hear. Questions,
Yeah.
anybody?
I mean, when you said that to us earlier, I was shocked. I think the reaction is, oh, wait, a conversation went positively, and things are looking hopeful. I don't know. It was just crazy, and what's wild about it is that 3 months from now is almost 1 year exactly since the Tempe vote failed.
Yeah, that's interesting as well. I hadn't even thought about that, but listen, and I'm still going to be skeptical. I'm still going to have questions. I'm still going to have doubts, but that was interesting. And the other thing that I can tell you is the 100 acres that they're looking at, it's right at the corner of the 101 and Scottsdale Road. That's the parcel that they've narrowed it down to. So we'll see. We'll see. Oh, and one more thing, actually. I'd mentioned before that there's a lot of discretion with the land department, like referred, it could be 10 weeks, could be 17 weeks. It feels like the land department can just say, hey, we want to fast track this. Like, as the government source said to me, that's the great thing about politics in Arizona. We can kind of do what we want in situations like this. So we'll see what happens.
Well, the way I look at this, though, Craig, there's a couple of big takeaways, and I know I don't want to get way ahead of ourselves because we've been we've been down both roads before. Oh, they're leaving, and don't panic.
Yeah.
And we are good news. I don't want people to jump for joy yet. So
Right.
There's somewhere in between, but there's some big takeaways. Positive government meeting. I think that's encouraging. I think hearing from 200 to 100 more, to a more manageable size of land, and now we know exactly where that land is at the northwest corner of 101 and Scottsdale Road. I think that's encouraging, and I think the biggest takeaway for me is 3 months, because we've been hearing to get something wrapped up in 3 months, in 90 days, like we're just not used to hearing those kind of timelines. That's I think that's really encouraging. Now that does not mean that checks have been written and the shovels are in the ground yet. There is a lot to do between now and that in the process. We've said, gosh, we don't know if a deal is going to get done. We don't know what plan A, B, or C is. But right now, for the first time in a very, very long time, there is positive news, Craig. So that I think that's something that, as we lay our heads on the pillow tonight, I think that's really good news. I think that's positive.
Yeah. But it like you said, Petey, proceed with caution. We've been here before, right? We've been positive. We've thought things were going in a good direction, and then something can change, and you never know with government processes. But I thought it was interesting that this government source chose to reach out to me and tell me that.
Hey, Craig, one question I have is, though, is you mentioned it earlier, is what to expect from the league and what kind of a statement Gary Bettman or Bill Daly or the league and where their stance is on this and what are their feelings. I know when Gary spoke at the All-Star game, he said Morello assured him he can get the deal done, and I'm going to believe him for now. And so I'm curious to see what the league's stance will be once some of this news gets out over the next 24, 48 hours to see what their response is.
Me too. Absolutely. And I can't speculate. I don't want to speculate on what that's going to be. I don't know where the league's mind is right now. This is again, I keep telling people this is an incredibly complex story. Every possibility that's out there has so much complexity to it. It's really hard to predict. Anybody who says they know what's happening, they know what's coming. It's just, I think, is a nitwit. Just stop.
How many times did we hear that at the rink today? Over the last 48 hours, I can't tell you how many people are telling me, here's what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen. And it's I'm literally all over the map. And the next guy in the next office, here's what's going to happen. I'm sure of it. There's literally, and I'm saying
and the national reporters are saying that too.
Yes, and they say they know, but you know who knows? But really, who knows? No one. Not any. There is no one that knows. There's not a person on this planet.
Gary Bettman doesn't know. Bettman doesn't know how this is going to play out yet.
Alex Morelos Sr. doesn't know how this is going to play out yet. They don't. They can all surmise and guess and feel like they're putting their best foot forward, but nobody really knows. So that's what you hate, all the wild speculation. It's encouraging that there is actually a piece of land that they're talking about, because in the tweet that the team sent out yesterday, Greg, one of the things that bothered me was narrowing it down to a few sites was part of one of the tweets they sent out. And I go, gosh, I already thought we did that. I mean, like, what are we talking about? Narrowing it down sites to multiple sites? Wait a minute. I thought we were going to be down to one. So this is kind of encouraging that we're talking about a single site.
Yeah.
And now we don't have to, like, that whole period in the Discord where everybody was sending maps all day. So now we know the site in mind. That's good news. And then the other good news is that this was the most positive thing we've heard in a week of extremely negative news and negative feelings. And I think, like, listen, I'm not saying get carried away, and I'm not going to try to get carried away, but it's just refreshing to sit here and not feel like I'm going to spiral into oblivion of stressing out about this. Again, proceed with caution. And I think it was Mike in the chat who had mentioned that 100 acres is bigger than what the Tempe project would have been. And that was something that you would acknowledge too, Craig, that this would be a bigger project than what was originally.
Thanks for reminding me of it. That is what I've heard as well. This is actually grander in scale than Tempe was. A lot of the same elements, but I've heard it's grander in scale. So interesting.
And Shelby says in the chat, y'all stop finding ways to be negative. Look, I don't think, and I want to be clear, I'm not negative about this at all. This is positive and great news. However, we're just proceeding with caution. I'm excited by positive news. It's great to have something positive happen surrounding the arena and the Arizona Coyotes. Absolutely fantastic. This is great news, and I hope the employees tune into the show tonight that I've talked to over the last few days that are concerned. I think this is a positive step in the right direction. I really, really, really do. This is great news, but it's not the end.
No, yeah, we're not being negative. We're being realistic here.
Right.
We're being objective. We understand all that's happened in this process, right? So you can't just say, "Woo, it's done," and get excited about it. You can take some optimism away from it, but like Leah said, proceed with caution.
I'll say, "Woo, it's done" when the puck drops on the first game at the new arena.